can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I'm here with Devon MacDonald of Cairns Oneil. And Devon, I always like to, before I formally introduce you, I always like to mention other episodes people should check out of the podcast. And since this is part of the Top Agency series, there's been some really cool agency owners, Devon, on. I had Kevin Hergen, who's had an agency since 1995. So he talks about the evolution, the services they offered, the pivots they went through, the challenges, the ups, the downs. It's really fascinating to hear. So check the one out with Kevin Hergen of Spinutech. I also had Todd Taskey on. Todd Taskey has a podcast called the Second Bite Podcast. He actually pairs agency owners with private equity and helps sell agencies. He calls it Second Bite because when they sell, sometimes they make more on the second bite than they do on the first. He walks through valuations, what the market is like, and kind of his evolution. So that was a great episode as well. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And how do we do that? We actually help you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, the accountability, and the full execution. Devon, we call ourselves the magic elves that work in the background to make it look easy for the host and the company so they could run their business and develop amazing relationships and produce great content. For me, the number one thing in my life is relationships, and I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I have found no better way over the past decade to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about podcasting, you should. If you have questions, go to rise25.com or email us support@rise25.com. And I'm excited to introduce Devon MacDonald. He's president at Cairns Oneil, one of Canada's leading independent media agencies. Devon was named the Media Leader of the Year in 2022 by Strategy Magazine, as a past recipient of the Queen's Golden Jubilee Medal for his work in the community. And Cairns Oneil is a full-service media agency specializing in strategy insights, media planning, media buying, and analytics. And Devon, thanks for joining me.
Jeremy, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Talk about the Queen's Golden Jubilee Medal. What did you do there?
Sure. So a good place to start, which is about 20 years ago, where I was running a company that provided technology services to charitable organizations across Canada. Hardware, software, working, what is the internet? How do we do that? How do we raise money? How do we market ourselves? And I was able to work with a few hundred different organizations across the country. And in recognition of that, and timed up at the Queen's Golden Jubilee anniversary of her being the Queen, I was a fortunate recipient of a community award, which was that medal.
Amazing. What brought you to Cairns Oneil?
Okay, so 20 years ago, I was in the technology world. I started in technology. I was a data programmer in the previous millennium. And then all of my clients along the way, working for consulting firms or whatnot, ended up being sales and marketing departments. After spending too much time on the plane, working for those firms, I decided to get a real job, which I thought at the time, which was to go agency side. And I was in the creative world first, running a couple teams and starting another company there, but realized that all the data and information was in the media side. And I left creative. We can go back to talk about a couple of those things, but to join and run a operating company for one of the global holding companies, but wanted to get to an independent to flex some more of some independent mindsets and some building capabilities and some entrepreneurial thirst that I had. And that led me to Cairns Oneil. And I've been here for just over 2 years now, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Talk about the dynamic between, so there's two founders, Um, Talk about the dynamic between bringing in a president. Like, what was your expectations? What was their expectations coming in?
Really good question. Thanks for the easy ones to start. Um, so David Cairns and Sherry O'Neill, founded Cairns Oneil coming up to 13 years ago, excuse me. And they are noted veterans and respected leaders within the media world in Canada and recognized a void in the market where brands could usually only be serviced by large operating companies from holding companies or by smaller independents that often lacked the scale or technology to provide service. So we provide service to mid-sized marketers and brands in Canada that they operate with autonomy. Oh, there's Sherry, there's David, that's for sure. And they have had a lot of success with their agency and we're looking to do more and wanted to bring in a president to help them run their company and bring it into the next phase. I am that person and again have been with them for 2 years now and trying to add some of my capabilities and ambition to the existing teams and clients, which are quite strong. But my background adds a different level of support and innovation to their company.
What advice do you have, Devon, from let's say a founder is listening to this and they're like, I really want to bring on a president. Okay, what is the easiest way? It sounds like the transition was great when you got on, but I don't know. I think sometimes working with founders is not so easy. I could speak for myself. Maybe I'm not so easy to work with, but what advice do you have for founders bringing in president in onboarding them and transitioning to kind of relinquishing maybe control?
Coming into this, I'm well aware of a number of stories of failures. This success does not happen often because your company is your company. You have made it. You've decided on the name. You've decided on the logo. You have lost sleep, blood, money over it for years to get it to where you want it to be. Every founder has gone through this. And we've been successful in this transition. And my advice to other founders, one, make sure you know what you want. Make sure you are ready to give up some control because the person you hire, you want them to do what they're good at. You want them to activate their skills. You want them to activate their network. And if you don't, they're going to quit and they're going to leave. So be sure you're ready and then be sure you empower them. And then the way that you do both of those things, I think, and where we've had a lot of success, myself with David and Sherry, we've been very upfront with each other from before I started with the role and going through the interview process, them testing me on my plan and me testing them on their plan to understand if there's a good fit for how we think and what our shared ambition is or distinct paths, but shared plans for the future. How do they line up? And I'm very fortunate that to have such strong-minded founders that were committed to the plan, that have stuck to it. And I think because of that, we've had a tremendous amount of success.
I love what you said there too, Devon. There's two things. One, empowerment, and two, having a shared plan and vision. Talk about empowerment when you came on, because I know we're going to talk about how that's a big initiative for you with the team in general is empowerment, but how did they empower you when you first came on and then beyond?
A couple of ways. So first of all, we're able to really establish trust with each other early. And through transparency, through good discussions, through getting to know each other, having a coffee, simple things. And it was during the pandemic. So some of those things were difficult where yeah, we want to meet face to face. Okay, it'll be in a park in a lawn chair. That's great. Let's do that. Take some humility and trust to get there. But um, they they allowed me to take over their company, excuse me, to prepare a plan and to execute it. They had feedback into it. They provided me context and advice. I'm open to the advice. I welcome the context. Every bit of information that they have around people or clients or history helps me do my job even better. So I think what has happened in a lot of other founders' cases is they might hire someone who comes in and thinks, oh, I have to change everything. Well, that's not going to work. You're going to repel, you're going to have the people rebel against you, the clients leave you. You have to fit into the system while complementing it. So that trust went a long way for them empowering me and building that vision together. And then we were also fortunate to have some early success with bringing in new services and bringing new clients. My method would be different than theirs. Everyone works differently than everyone else. And early success allowed us to build further trust, which led to further empowerment.
You can't go wrong with new services and new clients, right? So how did you start that relationship? Were you in charge of a certain initiative? What was the kind of the impetus of starting the service and new clients?
Well, for me, in joining the agency and agreeing to come on as president to help them transform, need to understand what do we have to start with and where are we? So let's look at some outputs of some reports. Look at some outputs of some strategy. What is the base technology that we're using to empower the decision making? And with my background in technology and in working for different operating companies, that helps me understand what we should do next. And while it was a great service and offering that was existing at the time, I knew how to level those things up, how to get buy-in from the team, how to business case it, and how to sell it into clients in a great or simple value proposition for them that made it easy for them to buy. So that's the thing with transformation is I do believe more in incremental improvement than complete turnaround, especially with a company that has such a great history and heritage in the market as Cairns Oneil does. It's not a turnaround. It is the eternal startup. If you have to choose between those two things, we are an eternal startup. So incremental improvement in technology is how we did that.
So with the empowerment side, then talk about the plan side. How did they test your plan? And then how did you test theirs? Start with yours. And was this before you started? Did they say come up with a plan? Like walk me through it in detail. Did they come up with a X month plan? How did it actually work from the beginning?
Yeah. So I had to do two plans. This was in the discussion phase after the first coffee. We're serious about each other. Okay, well, what would you do in the first 90 days? And what would you do in the first 5 years? And I don't want to say the 90 days was easy, but the 90 days was tested and true. There's good books and processes and methods out there about what to do in terms of evaluating, and my consultancy background helps me go through that and to break things down in big pieces. The 5 year was difficult and harder because I wasn't sure exactly what I have and what exactly good or bad was with the agency. Happy to find many good things, and I always hope for the worst but plan for the best. In that it requires a good balance of honesty and pessimism with optimism to get there. And so simply though, the way I look at it, and the way I look at media and our position in the industry, because of our size and scale, we can operate as fast as we want to. We can change faster than our competitors, and that gives us such an advantage. So my 5-year plan was based on change and how to amplify uh, the strengths that an agency like Cairns Oneil had.
I want to talk about the 90-day and 5-year for a second, but and I'm guessing the answer, but I don't know. In the change, right? In that 5-year plan, was AI in that plan at all? I mean, at that point when you started, I mean, AI wasn't huge or anything. Obviously now it's a hot topic. Was that even in the realm of your thinking at the time? Is a 5-year plan?
Not in the way that we're using it today. No, not at all.
And you're a software. I mean, you come from coding and development too, so it's you've
Yeah.
seen the kind of evolution of that. What was in the form of in your 5-year plan? What was in there?
Me, it's in that realm, in that category,
Yeah.
be activating data for sure. I think for a lot of brands, the data that they have is one of the most valuable resources. And building tools and platforms that connect data stronger together and lets you do more modeling, makes things more automated, is a real pain point for a lot of agencies and a lot of clients who have too much information. And so a big part of the plan is activating and creating data platforms to improve decision making, improve speed through automation. But I don't think, if I look back, that artificial intelligence would have been in the 5-year or 90-day.
Yeah, I mean, connecting data, automation, activating data platforms. Now you could just do that using quicker, easier, probably with AI, imagine. We'll go back to the 90-day, but on the AI topic, what are you doing with AI? I know you're doing some innovative things in that realm.
For sure. So it's such an exciting space. I don't think humanity is over. I don't think that creativity is dead either. I think it's an amazing additive tool for every marketer to put in their toolkit. And so back in the winter, or just 10 months ago, 9 months ago, the generative AI tools, the large language models, were being available in the public. Fascinating times, fascinating to see a world of possibilities as they continue to develop. And we saw in there an opportunity in that if you're able to teach a language model about a brand, it can tell a story or give information about a brand. And in my simple data processing mind, that is an output. And AI-based programmatic or dynamically creative or dynamic optimization, dynamic creative optimization, what a jumble, requires an input. And so as those two simple things that I talked to the team about, to say, we have these tools available. We have lots of willing, ambitious clients. Let's connect those two pieces together and really build a first of its kind tool that can take ad copy from a language model, put it into a ad server, and optimize it for effectiveness. I believe we're the first to do it. I have not heard someone else do this. I've been waiting to see what else someone can do. But in the meantime, we've developed a product roadmap for 2024. We have an exciting launch coming up soon about that. And it's such an exciting space where there's so much possibility for brands and for an agency like ours as well.
Devon, let's talk about that for a second. You are very technical, okay? In general, you have skills. It sounds like you just empowered the team to do this and you kind of stood back a little bit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what did you just for people listening, obviously everyone would be like, hey, here's the issue, go solve it. Talk about how you guided the team, you empowered the team and guided them to come up with a solution to what you were looking for.
Sure. I have a technical background for sure. I don't know if I'd be able to use a coding interface today. I think they're well beyond me now. But I do have a base understanding of how the systems work and how the machines connect. And I generally know that you can connect any two things together. So I don't trust people when they say they can't. Second is I understood the opportunity for us and what it would mean for our client to be able to produce and optimize this volume of client. What I didn't know was the middle piece. And so talking to the team and really saying to them, we have the tools, we have the technology, we have the vision, we have the clients, we have the budget. We have no other barriers. Take the time, invest the time. This is the number one thing for us to focus on. You get to build something from scratch for yourself, for the company. Let's do it. And really, the speech was, why not you? Why couldn't you create this? Why couldn't we create this for our clients? Why not? And that helped them, I hope, I think. And I encourage them and push them as much as I can and giving them the platform and time to do it today.
I'm curious to know, and maybe you're not in the weeds enough to know this, but I'm curious, what software tools did you look at or did you end up using in this space?
So I know two of them, and then the middleware stuff, I have no idea. So it was the ChatGPT model that we used, and we isolated a version of that model to teach it about a couple of our clients. And then we have an ad server partner called AdForm, who's been fantastic and has great engineering resources. And so the ad server is essential for the input and delivering it out to the outside world. And what our teams were able to do was to figure out how to codify the API from ChatGPT into AdForm. And one open technology and one proprietary technology. So that took some work. What the work was and what the weeds were, you're right, Jeremy. I don't know, but I know it. I knew it would be possible.
It's like when I go in and flip a light switch on, I don't know what necessarily all the physics behind it, but I do know the light turns on. So
Sure, what's AC, what's DC, who knows? But the lights go.
So I could see it's interesting in your 5-year plan, and I think I love hearing how you think, which is connecting data, automation, activating data platforms to help companies get to the next level, not just yours, but others. What was in the 90-day plan? Like someone's like, hey, I just need a rock solid. How did you do the research on that? Because again, you weren't on board yet at that point. How did you do the research to come up with that? And what was in the 90-day plan?
I'm scanning back to my brain about what was in there exactly. It would have been about 2.5 years ago when I wrote that. But I know it would have started from a place of learning and talking to the clients and talking to the people. My job in the 90 days was for them to get to know me and me to get to know them, to make sure I met with every employee and every client just to say hello. I'm an unknown entity coming into their business, coming to their lives, and being part of change in a company where for 10 years, David and Sherry were leading the company. Here comes the new guy. So it's getting them getting to know me assuring them that I'm here to support them and empower them, and for the clients to know that too. That would have been 2/3 of it. The other parts of it, so on clients and on people, the other component would have been around our technology and our product. And that's a media strategy product, media planning product, and the technology platforms we have. And it's really to get in a little deeper at a client by client level and a per platform level to really see where we were and to really understand what we could do next. It takes time. But the relationships with the staff, teams, and clients are the first part of that. They're the ones who created these tools. They're the one who created these plans. I want to help them. I want to support them and add to what they've done.
Yeah, I mean, I could see those pieces are important, and especially when starting a relationship, they're testing your plan, but you're testing theirs as well. How did you test? I don't know if you remember because it's been a couple of years, but how did you test their plan versus yours?
So I was able to see, of course, a lot of financial statements and structure of the company, and that was fine. But that doesn't answer the real questions. Things like client longevity, client tenure, staff longevity, staff tenure, staff promotions throughout their tenure. How have people grown? That tells you a lot about um, about the strength of a company and a strength of a servicing group, and the agency certainly had that. But in testing their plan, it was, we have a high amount of accountability between each other, um, between myself and the partners, to make sure that we stick to the plan. And so at the beginning, it was before day one, a lot of open discussions, a lot of going back. Let's make sure we're clear here. We had a great RACI chart that probably had 50 things on it that talked about where I would have autonomy, where I would not, and I was comfortable with that for sure. And then on the product side of things and going in, so being able to see things in advance, understanding the context is important. But they also let me and insisted I make my own, I create my own opinions. And they wanted me to have the flexibility to learn in an unbiased way. And that told me so much about them as leaders and about what they wanted me to do, and to form my own opinions and plans based on what I saw. Again, what the strengths were and what the opportunities were.
It sounds like, Devon, they really shared a bunch of information with you, financial, staff, and other information that allowed you to get a good picture, or at least a glimpse of not just financial pieces, but the staff as well and the services.
Absolutely. A good way to summarize it. And yeah, they did share a lot of information with me, which really helped me understand. They were a competitor before. And so you don't learn a lot about things. You learn stuff through press releases, and that's great. But it doesn't tell the whole story. And there was definitely more for me to learn. And even a sign that they were so willing to share that with me was build trust early with me.
And you don't have to say your specific scenario, but how should founders incentivize bringing someone in to take more control over their company? Should someone just be thinking of compensation and benefits? Should people be thinking of giving equity stake in or vesting over a period of time? What are ways that founders can attract really good talent and to help run their company?
Well, I think all those components are very important in the financial aspect of things. And I was fortunate in coming into these discussions and coming to this opportunity. I have friends involved in M&A as lawyers, as financiers, or who have gone through this as a seller or purchaser or new president with another agency. So I had a lot of people to talk to and to understand their experience. But the most important thing for a founder is to be clear on their goal. What do they want to do? And that, for me, was a test as well. And for people who work for me, they know when I say, "What is your plan?" I really want to know what the plan is. And I was able to share that with David and Sherry, and they were able to share their plan with me. And so it's our goals aligned. And yes, incentives and compensation and other things, they line up to it. But without alignment and understanding of goals and a clear understanding from the founder of the goals, none of that stuff matters.
What should someone like you be asking when they come in from a succession standpoint, right? Because that is kind of a goal. Like, we're bringing a president, we're stepping away. What does that look like? Is part of the conversation should they be having is intention of when you want to sell or the person's going to take over? How does that conversation go?
Yeah, so one example, one of the founders, David, he was promoted to executive chair of the company about 6 months or so after I started. And what was important for me to understand, and the questions I had of David and Sherry and I had of David, well, you want to be executive chairman. What does that mean to you? How involved do you want to be? What does that mean to the RACI? Do you want to be on a weekly status call? Do you want to see the operating plan every quarter? What's it going to take for you to feel comfortable in your new role? And those are all open discussions across 50 points, 100 points to have to understand what their plans are and what they want to do. So for me, coming into it was getting a clear articulation. And anyone coming in my position to take over running a company, you have to make sure that your goals are aligned and that responsibilities are clear. If they're not, you're going to have trouble very early, and that trouble will lead to conflict, and conflict will lead to failure.
Let's talk about culture for a second, Devon, and because it seems like, from the beginning you have this culture of empowerment. What are some of the things you do as a company that's built in, some examples of building culture?
Sure. Super difficult in these new worlds for me and for a lot of other agency leaders or listeners, I think, when you have some people working from home, some people from the office, some people from Thailand, wherever they might be. They're all over the place. And so our definition of culture used to be the office and used to be hanging out together. And that doesn't happen as a physical sense anymore, as strongly as it used to. And it's quite difficult to recreate that, I find, in a digital form. You have to be intentional with people and with teams to and over communicate your goals and vision with them to make sure they understand what they are and they believe in it and align to it. So building a sense of empowerment as an example is by leading with example and letting people and making sure people take credit for the work that they've done. It also means that we encourage people and over communicate with themselves to share. What terrifies me about remote working is people being digitally isolated from their colleagues to learn and to hear from each other. The water cooler talk about what's happening with client X no longer exists, and so the learning of osmosis does not happen. So we're very focused on training people and helping people improve their careers through training and through work, which to me, for our culture in being insights-led and strategically driven, I think that's how people can improve in their work and how we can showcase it best as an employer and company.
What are some of the things that you do in the remote setting to foster culture? Like you said before, you're talking around the water cooler, you're hanging out. What are you doing remotely to foster that?
So what I would say, first of all, is I do believe there are absolutely a lot of things that are more efficiently done when people are working remotely. On the flip side of that, I do absolutely believe that there are things that are done more efficiently together in person. And so we're very transparent with teams about that. We talk about that with them, how to get the best out of your work and how to get the best out of each other. And so for people working remotely, and we have a full flex policy, which I say is what people do what they want, which could mean never coming in, which could mean coming in every day and everywhere in between. But for those individuals and their managers, they need to stay on top of each other. And I don't mean in a micromanagement way. I mean in how are things going? What are you up to? Where are you? Where do you need help? How can I support you? And those casual discussions that you used to count on and walking by someone's desk 17 times a day, I believe those need to be recreated. And that doesn't mean 17 Zoom calls a day. I hope it doesn't. And that's a complete waste of time. But it actually takes more effort, I think, to do it, but it's worth it for people just to over communicate with them, to overshare, and to stay in touch with them.
What's a cadence meeting that, I don't know, what cadence meetings do you have on a weekly basis?
Me, I meet with our leadership team as a group every other week. And then one-on-one, there'd be 6 people within the leadership team, and it's up to them. I leave it up to them. We can meet once a week for half an hour. We can meet once a month for an hour. And then we stay in touch ad hoc through messages or email, of course, on important issues. But as a leadership team, it's important for us to be aligned and to share and to over communicate about issues because of the way they impact other teams in the company.
What's important to have, one-on-one from a format perspective?
Oh, well, an agenda, of course, is important, and a short agenda. It can't be 20 things long. If it's 20 things long, you're not meeting regularly enough, or you have too many priorities. So a short agenda is important. Um, and if you haven't met with them in a while, um, making sure you talk about personal stuff first. How are you doing? Where are you at? How are you feeling? Is there something we can talk about or you need help with? And then getting into the problem solving or updates as required. But that list should be short, shouldn't be any surprises, and should be about moving things forward.
Devon, I want to talk a little bit about what you do as a company. And can you walk me through a little bit of an example would be like a leading telecommunications company and what you did with them?
Sure. So we do have a client who's a leading telecommunications company, and they provide a variety of services across mobile, internet, home phone, cable, all those good things to a wide swath of customers. And it's a super competitive business, as I'm sure you're aware, driven by rates and driven by performance of the networks that they're on. And so for us, working with our client in this space, it's a great client because they do have so much ambition and they do have so much need and they believe in advertising, which is the most important thing for any client. And so we use things like our transparent trade desk to model customer behavior, ingest first-party data in our DMP to understand the signals and triggers that we can go and apply against unknown audiences for acquisition purposes, get people into stores and use modeling through search and programmatic to understand what is doing the best work to get people into stores. And of course, elevating the brand. I'm excited for this one client in particular. They have a new brand platform coming out this fall. We all know how much brand does help improve performance. Study after study shows this, and we preach this, a balance is so important. And also integrate understanding and helping them evaluate how the inner workings of technology within their company can be activated within media. And for too many firms, there are silos between technology and marketing where the customer data platform choices and signals really matter and can be activated and empowered further within media, all privacy compliant and all that good stuff. But there's so much resources available for media to activate on. And that's the part for my teams and myself where we feel we can really help accelerate media and not just rely on media performance, but actual business performance. It's so important to us.
First of all, I just want to I have one last question, Devon. Before I ask it, I'd love to hear some of your favorite resources, whether it's books, podcasts, could be on leadership or business. Before we get into that part, I just want to thank you for sharing your expertise. I want to encourage people to check out the website, which is CAIRNSONEIL.com to learn more. Talk about some of your favorite resources from a leadership or business perspective.
Well, I'm very fortunate. I've had some great leaders as bosses throughout my career. They remain friends. I text them or call them when I need help, and they do now me, which is a strange turn of events, but welcome. And so that professional network is my number one source. My number two source, I like to read books. I read very few marketing books. I mostly read books about artists or individuals who have worked through challenges and had success. My two favorite books that I've read recently that I've recommended to people heavily are Rick Rubin's latest book and Sinead O'Connor's biography, which she wrote before she passed away. She wrote 2 summers ago before she passed away this summer. Both incredible creators who see the world very differently than you and I, because I have a fundamental belief that if we're just stuck to my ideas, we're in big trouble. And so I like to hear different perspectives from people, and books like that are where I get my ideas and have the ability to think differently about things.
Devon, I'll be the first one to thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. Your knowledge This is fascinating. Everyone check out more episodes of the podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Devon.
Thanks, Jeremy.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like $100 grand.